Good morning, Terrence. This is your favorite alien. I was off of the air for a little bit here this week. Uh, boy, your medicine is about 300, 400 years behind ours, but hey, you still open people here. Anyway, got the pacemaker in for my host here, so he's doing okay. But we would have had this fixed in a jiffy where I come from. Anyway, wanted to do a video today. It's been a busy week. Uh, Between the shootings and your president. And in past videos, I've been telling you about we got rid of our rights. And I want to tell you why we got rid of them and why we got what we got. Okay, like I said, you may consider our civilizations a little more barbaric than yours, but hey, we've been around longer and we'll be around longer than you guys because you're burning your candle at both ends here. Anyway, so with further ado, like I told you in my other videos, 1,000 years ago, our planet was like yours. It had what you called rights here. And we used to call them absolute, which really is something you shouldn't have. Entitlements and absoluteness, it's a guarantee for your society to go downhill fast. Because you think that you're entitled to stuff and that you deserve, and it's a God-given right, as you say down here, but it really isn't. I mean, if there was a being like your so-called God, you would have arrested development here. You would be the same way 10,000 years ago as you are today, because you had to follow what he said. But that's a different story. So I digress a little. Let's go back to what happened. The 25 people that got together decided, hey, look at all these so-called, and I'm putting it in your terms here, rights. We had the right to free speech, the right to assembly, the right to denigrate people, and nothing was done about it. Everybody carried their own weapons. And I don't mean guns with bullets. I mean, those were centuries old, even back then. I mean phase weapons, where you can disintegrate a person at a person's notice. And if you didn't like them, it was like your old west here. You would pull your weapon out, or go into your schools and shoot them. Can you imagine if it wasn't guns, if it was disintegrating phase weapons, and you wouldn't see your kids because they were all disintegrated in a second? Now, how would you like that? So this is what our society had to contend with 1,000 years, and they didn't want to change. They loved their guns. They loved their so-called rights. I mean, you had uh, the minorities, like our version of your African Americans, were roaming around amok, and the Asians, minorities, and stuff like that, because they figured that they were owed, as they say, owed for centuries of neglect and centuries of barbarism. We had our bad times too on my planet. So our 25 people says we can't change this planet because it's going to disintegrate the way it is, and it did. So let's do something new. Let's get people here that want to change. Okay, so we got, like I said, they became 500,000 by the time we left, about 90 years later. Uh, so, okay, so here's the thing. We got rid of all the rights, and we had the equivalents of your, what you call the Bill of Rights, your 10 so-called rights. And we even had uh, a, uh, a right that mimics your 14th Amendment. That was the worst mistake we've ever made. And you guys, I mean, the Supreme Court, the court members should realize that that is the biggest mistake your court has made. It's the 14th Amendment. And the first and the second. Those are the three amendments that are the worst that your society has ever done. But then again, I'm preaching to deaf ears here. You won't listen to this. But if you, there's a few of you that listen, here's what we did. We set up, like I said, first thing, a mission statement. What our government was going to be now and in the future, and taking into account changes in technology and changes in who we would encounter. Something your government has never done. Uh, so we created, like I said, a prime directive like your Star Trek, but ours is more stringent. Do not interfere in other people's affairs. And we meant it, and we still mean it. Because look what happens. You interfere in other people's affairs, and you get yourself in trouble. You got yourself in trouble in Iran, the Americans. Uh, the British got themselves in trouble all over the place with their so-called colonies, with the French. Same way. So see what I mean? So we did that. Then we had guarantees. You had the guarantee to assembly, to talk about problems. You didn't have the right to riot. You didn't have the right to protest. That was a no-no because protest leads to riots. But you had the right to put things in writing and the right to have your voices heard. And politicians, that's why we outlawed politics. The people in government had the right to listen to the people. And to this day, they do. Something that your government leaders don't do because they're politicians. Their party or politics comes first. That you should put aside. Number two, no weapons, but every individual should be taught weapons at a certain age. In our case, like 17, 18 of your years, we teach every individual, whether it's male, female, it's he, she, he, what's it, whatever. But we teach and still teach them what it is to defend yourself just in case we need it. We have security forces. And no, they're not Gestapo. But they do have the right to tell you, sir, you have to follow your citizenship. And you got to know what it is to be a citizen. And that doesn't mean that you have curtail here and curtail there. It means that you enforce the laws, which you guys don't do here. Jaywalking, for instance, you don't enforce that law. You don't enforce the cursing law either. So see, discord, you guys you don't tolerate it. You expand it, and that's one thing we cannot tolerate. And then we had the guarantee to a good life, whether you're a janitor or president of the federation or in between. It doesn't mean that because you're a janitor, you deserve less rights than somebody who is the president of the federation. You are treated the same. That's something you guys don't comprehend, let alone understand here. Also, you don't understand the meaning of generation foundation. There's no foundation here. And what I mean by that is, in our case, the 25 people that started our federation, that's still our first step. And we are, centuries from that. We're 1,000 years from those 25 people. And we still look at them, even though things have changed in 1,000 years, it's still the same as far as the government. Technology has changed. New adversaries have come and gone. But we still use their wisdom and go by that. And that's what you should do. But you don't do that. Look at President Trump. I mean, he's fighting a yo-yo thing with North Korea. He's getting himself out of agreements. Whether they were good or bad, your administrations signed it. So stay in it and try to find a way to change it. That's what we do. Every agreement we signed with our Federation members, and the members sign with us, and also adversaries and other non-aligned entities that are outside. There's a lot of civilizations that's not part of our Federation, and we have agreements with them. Some of them were bad, and we made them good. You don't neglect or back away from them. That's something that your society has to understand. So, like I said, I don't have time in these videos to go into detail. I tried to do this as fast as I could. If you want to hear more, just send me some comments. I appreciate it. Thanks.